Hey there, I got another video for you guys today with Elliot Seldner of Fair Share Farm just outside of Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And I did a video with Elliot a couple months ago, and if you want to check that out, I'll put a link up here. And it's a full tour of his farm. It's just an incredible operation and some really neat people there doing some cool stuff. And this video is specifically about the technique that they use of oversowing clover into their vegetable beds, and it does some really neat things. And so if you guys aren't already subscribed to the channel, it would be greatly appreciated if you could do that. Otherwise, guys, hope you enjoy. All right, Elliot, can you talk a little bit about this strategy of growing clover in your brassicas?
Sure. So this is a technique that could be applied, first of all, to any crop, basically in the vegetable garden and beyond. But it's an old school technique given new life, I think, today here and in other places. Oversown clover to take over the bed as the dominant species once we've cropped this kale out throughout the winter time. So down below here, I've already thrown down clover seed. If I can get any light on it, you can see that I've got clover there that's maybe 3 going on 4 weeks old. Its growth has been retarded greatly by the shadow of the canopy of the kale. But as we actually get through and harvest this up, we'll start getting that palm tree effect out of the harvested kale. And the leaves will also stop growing as fast in the wintertime due to lack of light. So we'll have a smaller crown of leaves to harvest up here. More light will be penetrating through, and that clover will start becoming the dominant species. When it comes time to flip next year, we're trying to adopt lower tillage techniques, so we may actually just lop the base of the plant off and remove the residue, leave the roots intact, and then apply mulches of whatever we desire on top and plant straight through.
So the clover is doing a couple things. You're keeping photosynthesis going on,
Right.
feeding the soil, and then is the clover providing any other nutrition for the soil too?
Hopefully. So I don't understand photosynthesis very well, but I do understand that that's something that we want going on as much as possible. The other thing you can get from a legume is nitrogen fixation. So these are inoculated clover seed when we applied them. With any luck, we have nitrogen nodules down under the soil next year. I don't know when we're going to come in. Crop plan says we're in here fairly early spring. So by the time we get here, it may have done nothing more than be a place filler and doing that photosynthesis work, doing that sort of keeping the soil active and living. We'll see if we get to a point where the stand is full enough and mature enough to actually have saved us any cost on nitrogen next year. But that's the aspiration for sure.
Another question I have is, what's the timing like for this? Because obviously, you know, as the kale's bigger, you're shading out the clover. So do you want to sow it sort of a couple weeks before harvest? What's the timing looking like on that?
So you want to oversow at your last cultivation. That's the general rule of thumb. Whenever you're like, obviously we're no longer going to spend any labor here cultivating. It would just make a mess and damage our harvest. So we knew that that window was coming up generally. Well, I said 3 weeks ago, so we're talking end of September. End of September, beginning of October. Perfect time for our area. Still warm, but mellow enough temperature-wise for clover seed to germinate readily. So this got sown by hand over the bed directly, not into the walkway. We're still planning to maintain those clean for now, and hopefully just have a nice settled and stable bed top for when we're ready to come back in next year.
So have you done this with other crops? And you mentioned not just brassicas, but...
The entire field has it, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and to better or worse success in some places.
Okay.
Even here in the carrots, if you're willing to look with me. come in close here if you can. You can see that the clover's done really well establishing between the carrot beds. See that?
Yep.
Cool. So these carrots aren't ready yet, but let's say we pick the bed clean. With any luck, we'll see strips of clover running the length of the bed, and they'll be ready to fill in without more cultivation or disturbance. If you'll look here too, being on this slope, we just had heavy rains yesterday, and we've got a whole week of rain scheduled. You can just see all the water that's moved through here and deposited silt. That's our good topsoil. You can see all the sand in there. Sandy loam is the topsoil we have here. It's a beautiful soil for vegetables, but it's about yay thin due to the slope and previous agricultural practices in the area. Okay, so we don't have that much to lose anymore, so that's why it's a big deal for me. And so if we can at least, we're attempting with the fine roots of a dwarf clover to keep as much soil on top, and with luck and better planning in the future, increase fertility at the same time. But hopefully it's a stopgap for us this year.